Hello and welcome to How to Live Your Body. This is our first episode back since the new year. So happy new year, everybody. We're happy to be back. We took a couple weeks off. But today's episode, we're excited to do this because it's going to be all about truth telling.
How to love your body.
Like, I do feel like Jenna and I come on here and we tell the truth and we give our honest selves and we talk about UnDieting in a very honest way. And I think it's just really refreshing when you can come on and just hear a couple of gals talking about life and just being super, super honest about it. Because I feel like sometimes we could really get in a place of like, everybody else's life is, I don't want to say perfect. Like, I don't think like we all just think that everybody just has some perfect like life. Of course, there's some type of like, yeah, we're all human, but we get in our heads that like everybody else is just living the most perfect, amazing life. And actually, there's a lot of struggle. And we want to talk about it all. It doesn't all have to be gloom and doom and struggle. Yes, that happens all the time. That doesn't have to be bad. And we can talk about how to get through that. We can talk about, all the things. And that's what we want to talk about today. We just want to be honest and just tell the truth. And I hope you find this conversation refreshing. And of course, we're going to tie in our personal lives. We're going to tie in UnDieting. We're going to tie it all together. And we're going to see where this episode takes us because I'm not exactly sure how it's all going to come out. But just know that we relate to you, our listeners, probably more than you know. Like, I think we are just all the same. We are all human. And here we are. We're going to be telling the truth today.
That's right. And this is our first episode that we are doing on video as well. So if you do want to watch the video of this episode, or if you are watching the video, hello.
Yeah.
On YouTube, every week we'll be posting the video recording of the podcast as well as other YouTube videos. So you can go follow us on our YouTube channel as well, The Body Love Society. So just want to let you know that new update. So truth. What kind of truth are we telling today, Lauren? You want to kickstart things?
Yeah, we can kickstart. So I think we should kind of chat about where our lives are kind of at today and what we've been going through. I know that Jenna and I, we talk all the time and we'll text behind the scenes and we know each other's lives and we kind of give each other like, totally get it, totally understand. And that's so hard. And, I think it's great that we could bring it to where we are today. So my heart's kind of racing right now because I feel like if I look back the last 2 years, I mean, many, many years, there's been a lot of things going on in my world, but the last 2 years have been the hardest process for me. And I've never really said anything because it's really, one, it's hard to talk about. Two, it's there a lot to process. Three, I didn't feel safe to talk about it because there was a lot of like issues going on that I just wasn't sure if I should say it publicly. So, I mean, many, many people on the planet go through this. I'm not the only one. But 2 years ago, I actually left my husband. I'm not actually fully divorced yet, but I've been going through a divorce for the past 2 years. And when I left, I was actually like 20 weeks pregnant with my second daughter. So it was like December of 2019. So it was really a really weird time to be leaving in the middle of like, our second daughter wasn't even born. Our first daughter was only 14 months old. And it was a really hard time. And that was December of 2019. And just a few months after, the pandemic hits. And that just puts another craziness into the world. And just like going through divorce, going through the pandemic. And then my second daughter was born in April of 2020. And that's when it was like the scariest time of the pandemic. I know it's still going on and there's crazy stuff happening today. So it's not like it ever went away. But I feel like in April of 2020, that's when it was really like the scariest and the height, like nobody knew what was going on. And hospitals were just going insane. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go to the hospital when everybody's like, I want to stay away from the hospital. Now I have to go have a baby. This is crazy. And, like all the plans were messed up. The people that I wanted to be there with me were not able to be there. When my second daughter was born because of COVID, I was also divorced. So my husband was not invited because I didn't want him to be there. And it was challenging. And, thankfully I had my daughter and she was healthy and I got out of the hospital really quickly. And my aunt was with me. My mom stayed with my other daughter. So it went smoothly. And then just for the last 2 years, it's just been very, very full of divorce and trying to keep my kids safe and doing the best I can and grieving what I lost that I feel, grieving the family that I really have always wanted and still want, grieving the relationship that I had that I thought was something more than it really was, and kind of just going through I feel really empowered to have left my marriage because it was not healthy for me. It was not healthy for my daughters. And I think I made the best decision I could have ever made. And it was still a really hard decision. And then I have never known divorce. So going through a divorce, it was just all new. None of my friends were going through a divorce. I made a couple friends now that we've been able to find more people in my community of divorce, which is confusing to kind of still be part of that. But it's really hard to see happy couples and to see families together and women having babies with their husbands by their sides. And there was just so many things to grieve and so many hard situations. And I mean, just to go through this whole process, it's been 2 years. It's not even over yet. And it's not, I don't want to go into too many details because again, I don't know how safe I feel about who's listening and what can be said, but I think it's time to let everybody know, I'm not married anymore. I'm not with that person. I hope to go on and meet somebody new and, maybe have more kids and find my two daughters a really healthy, father figure in their life, and that would be what's really important to me. But it's I am done being, it's just been very psychologically, emotionally, financially abusive, this whole divorce. And it's still just it's holding on. I was just texting Jenna last night and this happened. I just got dropped. I just got an email and I can't believe it. We're just going back and forth and she's being all supportive and stuff. But it has not been fucking easy. It has been the most grieving times. At some point, I completely lost my emotion to it because I had to be so on point with court and this and keeping everybody safe and talking to my lawyer. Yeah, I was just head down for 2 years. I think the beginning I had a lot of emotion. In the middle of it, I was just okay, done. No emotion. Get through this. You got to do the best for your kids. And then once things started to turn a little bit, I got my emotions back in the last few months, which has been really hard. I was almost are you okay? You're super cold. It almost felt I was where's my emotion? I always feel very deeply and I'm very sensitive and empathic. And it was kind of gone. And now it's starting to come back. And it almost feels harder to feel so much because now it's grieving all the last 2 years of what's been going on. So, I mean, that's really something that I've wanted to share probably for the past 2 years. I don't think it was more of a secret. It's just more of gosh, if anybody is going through something hard, it doesn't have to be divorce. It could be literally anything. Maybe we're not going through the exact same thing, but the feeling of having this human experience of challenge and having to wake up every day and just get through the day. And some days are your worst days that you've ever had in your life. And some days you have come forth and you are I am empowered and I am doing this. And it's the ebb and flow that we continue to talk about. There are still the most worst, sad, grieving days that I've ever had. And then there are days where I am definitely feeling I am free and I've made decisions that are best for me and my family. And, hopefully there's a great future out there. But I'm definitely in a spot that I'm trying to make sure that I'm continuing to create happiness in the moment. It's really hard sometimes because you can get pretty negative, like this is not right, and this is not right, and this was not my plan. And I think that's something that I really have learned is I got to let go of my agenda. My agenda, I think, has screwed me over from the beginning. Like, I do this, I go to college, I play soccer, I graduate, I get a career, I find a person, I get married, I have my husband, I have kids, I get the house, and I have arrived. And I got all that, and it all went to shit. Like, I'm at like ground zero, I'm like, it just all fell apart right before my eyes. And I truly believe that if I didn't have my agenda, like, this is what has to happen next. Like, I need the husband now, or the partner. I need the kids now. And I think that altered my way of thinking because I was so on an agenda, and I'm trying so hard to not have an agenda because I still have one. I still want to have that partnership. It gets pretty fucking lonely. Like, I am lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I love my kids so much, and they do fulfill me and make me happy, but it's still lonely for me. So I just want to make sure that I can continue in the world, and I want to be free. I don't want to make decisions based off of my agenda anymore because that got me in a lot of trouble. It got me,
I think that's so related to body image and all our other work too. It's like we always had an agenda of how we're supposed to look and how our fitness is supposed to be and how we're supposed to eat. And it was so like, okay, this is the plan. This is what I should do. And then when that doesn't work, we feel horrible and kind of fall down that spiral. It's the same with
having expectations, really.
Expectations of any area of life is going to kind of lead to that because it's never going to work out the way we want it to.
No, it just leads to a lot of pain. Like, I mean, I'm so happy to have my kids. Like, of course, I think that's the number one thing people say to me when they hear the horror. Like, I will spare the details for all of you because, again, not sure how safe it is to share details. And, I'm not here to come out and bash, and, that's not really why I'm sharing about this. But the number one thing people say when they hear the details and how horrible it's been and how, just abusive it has felt to me, they say, at least you have your girls. Like, you got two beautiful girls out of this. Like, it's such a blessing to have them. And I agree. I am so in agreement of that. I would never wish them not to be here now that I know who they are. And it's still so hard. Well, it just is kind of like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. If I never knew who they were, it just was kind of like, I made the decisions that I made, and I've learned the lessons that I've learned. And I see where I made mistakes and what I could have done differently to avoid this shit show that I've been going through for the last 2 years, but 2 years plus. Because obviously I didn't become unhappy 2 years ago and left. You're unhappy for quite some time before you decide to leave. I believe, I don't know that for everybody, but I'm assuming it takes some, you don't just leave when you're pregnant just because you feel like it. You probably leave because you've gone through a lot of process and you knew that was the best decision, and you have been and we had, there was a lot of things going on. And it's kind of like, if I didn't know my life today, then I don't know. It just would be interesting if I went back and kind of redid all the things but that's life, right? We could do that with anything. Now that I know what I know, I could have done it differently, but that's kind of how it goes with everything. I feel like we kind of have to and we don't even have to call it a mistake. It's just life lessons and experiences and choices at that time. And I guess you learn and you move forward so you don't make those mistakes moving forward.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. We'll see where my life takes me. Hoping to not make any more.
Let's not do that again.
Yeah, I'm hoping that got me out of toxic relationships that crush my soul and make me feel lonely in the same room as your husband for years. Like, I hope that's not something that's going to be in my future again, but we shall see. I hope I learned enough, and what feels, I think it's, and this kind of brings in like the intuitive eating and intuition of body, not even just like eating, but just everything. Like, how does your body feel? And that, I mean, if I listened to my body solely, like if I got my agenda, here's my agenda of all the things I wanted in life. Let's say I cut that out. Like, don't listen to the agenda, tune in and listen to your body. I would have made so many decisions that would have got me around these hurdles or just escape them completely. And because I can go back and say, if I know how my body felt, it really does speak to you. So I think it's important to kind of take that in with life decisions, with food decisions. How does your body feel? Of course, there's obviously some logic. You gotta use your thoughts too, and there has to, having kids with somebody, you can't just like, this is how I feel. So I'm just like, I wish we could do that always. But I think this is like one of your strongest indicators is how do you feel in your body? And I feel that gives you the most honest choice.
Yeah.
Because it's really crazy how it kind of just knows.
I
it
think
knows
it's
what to do.
so true. And I also think that if we listen to that, that's when we find contentment, peace, happiness. I know we think if we follow the agenda, whether it's I'm supposed to look this way, or I'm supposed to have this type of relationship, or I'm supposed to have a house at this age, or I'm supposed to have my career figured out at this age. If you listen to that, logically, it feels like, okay, if I get that career, if I get that house, if I get that partner, I'll be happy. But if it's not the right time or the right person or the right path, you'll never be. Even if in the end you had it looks from the outside like you have everything, but in your gut, it doesn't feel right. I think when you go with your gut, even if from the outside it looks weird, or it looks like, oh, she quit a really good job and now she gets paid less, but you're happier in your gut, like that's always going to bring you to where you want to be.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely had the image of, I think maybe not perfect, but I had the image of, oh, like a very cute Instagram family, like you post a picture of you and the kids and it's like, oh, they must be so happy they have it all. And we got married and then immediately started having miscarriages. Like it was like, so it was like, oh, this couple went through a lot, and then it was like, look what they overcame. Because going through struggles with fertility, oh my, we can get into that too if we want, but that's like another one of the hardest things on the planet. I feel like for all women who have tried to have kids and either it's not working out or it's taking a long time or whatever it is, there are so many different things. I don't even want to generalize it, but it's like everybody can be going through their own struggle. And it's like we had 2 miscarriages within 6 months, and then we kept going, and then we had 2 successful daughters coming out of that. And it's like it looked probably so good because I did share that part of me on my my personal Instagram. And I shared about the miscarriages, and then I shared about like rainbow babies and whatever. And it was nice to overcome. And it was like another hardest thing in my life to get. I mean, that will stay in my bones forever. Like miscarriage will, trigger warning if we need to say that. Because it is a really hard topic. But, getting through that and then, posting on social media, oh, here's our baby that we finally get to take home after all this struggle, and look at us 3 taking a photo. And it was like, I have to tell you, I could go look at every picture that I've taken down and tell you it looks perfect, but let me tell you what was really happening. And I think that could be said for a lot of people, not saying that everybody's pictures there was no happiness in there and it's all a lie. But if it was happy, it's probably just your highlight reel. And, there's a lot of stuff that isn't being posted.
Oh, yeah. And that's everyone. It's like you have those moments of, oh, this is a great day, or this is a great moment, or this is a great afternoon. But I know I have that seeing other people with their like kids, because obviously haven't gone through what Lauren's gone through, but I've had postpartum depression, and then more recently just normal depression. I went to visit Lauren. I'm in LA for
all the days. Depressions.
Yes, all the types of depression. and visiting Lauren, we're doing fun stuff. And I just felt so like dead inside. And I'm like, okay, clearly this was not a like, oh, life is stressful, let me get away issue. This is like an internal issue. And so when I see people post about their other kids, I'm like, why do they make it look so easy? Like, oh, they went traveling with their 1-year-old and it looks like they had a great time. But then sometimes people will post like stories later and be like, oh my God, that trip was so hard. I mean, it was worth it. I'm glad we went, but that was so difficult. I'm like, oh, thank you. Because I've only gone on one trip with my first son when he was just over 1 and I was pregnant. And God, I'm like, that was not a vacation. That was just caring for a child in another location that wasn't childproofed. Like that was hard, but it was worth it. So I do see that kind of like, oh, it was worth the struggle, but it wasn't exactly fun. And so I like seeing that behind the scenes part, because lots of times I can be like, well, why does every day feel so hard for me? Like, okay, just got to get through the day. And all these like parenting is really hard. And I find it so draining and it's like super tiring for me and stressful, especially when you have a business and are in grad school and all the other things that you and I both have going on. And so it can be like really defeating when people do post photos, even if they're not saying everything is so amazing, my life is so great. It's like you just see a picture of people doing something that you're like, hey, when I do that, it's really hard. So why is it so easy for them? So I don't particularly love Instagram anymore for that and other reasons. But that can be, I just think we all have to be so careful with what we're looking at and why we're looking at it. Like, why are you looking at those photos? Why are you scrolling on Instagram? Because I do find Instagram, which is why, like, we have our podcast right now. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we're building our YouTube more because that's more long form, educational. We can actually teach something and say something in a longer format. Whereas Instagram seems really more about entertainment now. It's like, even if you're an intuitive eating counselor, a therapist, or a dietitian, it's like you're doing a 15-second reel. That's like, how are you going to actually help people with that? It's more for entertainment or, haha, that's funny or good point. But for me to consume that, I'm like, I don't think this is really helping me in any way. This is just making me feel worse about my situation, making me feel like, oh, everybody's so good at Instagram, especially as like a business owner. Oh, everyone says such good ideas. Like, I don't even have the gumption to like do that. I don't have the energy or time or space to even think of that.
The creativity of reels that's a whole nother world of work.
So much work. And like, we're just not good at the like showmanship, haha, funny. We're just like, we like to sit down and talk and be real and share our expertise, because we do have a lot of expertise with intuitive eating, food, and body. We are both in grad school to become therapists soon. Very exciting. And so that's why we really, I've been questioning what I'm consuming content wise for sure.
And
wondering,
you come
like,
off of Instagram and you feel,
how has this made me
how
feel?
does your body feel?
How does listening to your body?
Totally. Because every time I do it, I can tell like, that was not good for your, for your soul. That was not good. And it wasn't even anything like necessarily horrible. We kind of live in a day and age where we can consume so much and see so many people at one time, that it's like, back in the day they didn't just go on their phone, they didn't even, like, their cell phone, it didn't even exist, and see the world of thousands, millions of people. So they kind of could keep more presence in their lives because they couldn't really dive deep into a phone and get lost. I mean, of course, I love that we have technology and it has created our business, and I love online virtual stuff. Like, it does so much good. And it also, I think it's just pay attention to how you feel. And we've talked about this many times before in podcasts of like, stay away from what doesn't serve you, and what does feel good to you, continue to do that. And there's nothing, it's not about you are bad if you like to scroll on Instagram. Not at all. What if you scroll and it actually inspires you and you feel really good about it? Or maybe it's like, once I get past like 30 minutes, I kind of feel like it's not going. Maybe it's just a time limit, whatever it is for you, just that's what it's all about. It's listening to your body and what you can do for yourself. And I do believe that throughout my life, anytime there has been something going on, and everybody has a story, like, I'm clear, I'm not the only one who goes through things that are hard. Like, I have perspective, And I think that helps me too, to have perspective on there are so many other things that are people going through that are so much worse. And I don't want to say it as in like an invalidating thing, like, so stop feeling your feelings. You shouldn't be sad ever. It's like, no, your experience is still your experience. And just know, like, there are so many other things on the planet
Well,
that
it's like
happen.
being aware of privilege. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I understand that I can still have my feelings. Anything I am going through, like even anything I'm going through is like less than what you're going through currently. So it's like, but that doesn't mean any of my feelings are not valid. But it does just give you that bit of, instead of being in
Hmm.
your bubble where you're like unaware of what's really going on in the world, or if you're in a
Yeah.
thin body struggling with food and body image, that's still very valid, but it's really
Hmm.
important to be aware of anti-fatness and how it affects people in larger bodies differently, and just being aware of kind of the bigger picture of an issue than just like your own little bubble, because that can get you kind of
Oh,
uh, like running like a hamster in a
yeah.
wheel. So it's like if you can
Because some,
broaden your
yeah.
view, it can help.
Sometimes you just feel so, and sometimes you do feel so alone in your own feelings. And, I do like the whole, like, you are not alone. We say that to our community. Like, if you're feeling these feelings, so many other people are, you are not alone. And we do try to build community, especially through our app, because there actually is a community section where people can actually come in and talk to each other. It's not just like sitting in your room by yourself and saying, I know I'm not alone, but I'm like, I sure as hell feel alone. Like, you got to find community that makes you feel like you're not alone, on top of also knowing you're not alone. But I do find it is hard to just, if you're sitting by yourself, it could feel very lonely, even though I'm like, so many people go through divorce. There's so
Mhm.
many people have to be, are single moms. So many people have gone through custody battles, and like we're all in it together. And I have heard the whole like, we're all kind of just one and we're all interconnected, which I feel like is so true. Like we all are just the same in, but also in our own unique way. We're all our own person, but we all have like this human experience together. And that does feel like, I think that's why human connection is so important to find
Mhm.
when you are.
But talking to someone who's gone through the exact same thing as you can really strengthen that connection. And I feel like when you just validate, like, hey, you're not the only one who's like a weirdo that you feel that way, that does
Mhm.
lessen the emotion right away. Like for
Yes, oh
me,
my
that's like
gosh.
with parenting, there is the parenting stuff out there of like, oh, I feel so bad. I'm not a good enough mom. I'm like, I don't have those feelings. I have the feelings of like, this is so hard. Where am I? Where is my life? Where is my individuality? Like, where
Hmm.
did my fabulous life go before kids? It's like, I would not trade them for $1 million, but like I wouldn't trade the situation I'm in for anything in the world. But this feels so hard. And I feel like I
Hmm.
don't have that maternal instinct that's just like, oh, I'm just so excited to be home with my 2 and 3 year old all day and just do crafts and play with garbage
Mm.
trucks all day long. It's like, I really don't have
No,
that in
sometimes
me.
you're like, I don't want to be here anymore at all.
Yeah. So finding connection of moms who like have that honesty. And I have found a few on Instagram who are like super real about like, oh my God, like I cannot play dolls for 1 more minute. Like this is not
Mm.
enjoyable. I need my own time. I need alone time. I need space. And I mean, that's part of like postpartum depression for me was definitely like, I don't think it ever totally went away. But so it's like you got to find the connection with the exact people, because I can find connection with other moms, but like I have a few friends
Hmm.
who are like stay-at-home moms and they love it. They would not go back to work if they could. They love it. They love being with their kids all day. I'm like, I do not understand. I do not know that
Hmm.
life. Like that is not
Yeah.
the life for me. And
Like that is not for me.
that is like would really not be good for my mental health. I need my own
Hmm.
space, my own work, my own time.
Yes.
And that can feel selfish sometimes. So it's like you need to connect with, I personally need to connect with other moms that are like, yeah, I find it really hard too. And that's like not
Hmm.
like being with my kids all day is not my like heaven.
Hmm.
And this is how I balance my life to have my own time and my own identity plus being a mother. And so with like food and body, if you're like, oh, I'm in a fat body and okay, yeah, I'm talking to my friends who are in thin bodies and they have the same problems, but it might not feel exactly the same.
Hmm.
Or I have a limb difference and I want to talk to somebody who also has a limb difference, not just somebody who's dealing with body image or acne. Like, you never know what it is that
Hmm.
you're struggling with, whether it's body image, food, disordered eating, eating disorders. Um,
Hmm.
Finding someone who's very similar in your situation can help a lot. And that's what's cool
Oh yeah.
about the community and the app too, is like you can say, hey, I'm
Hmm.
struggling with this. Does anyone relate? And tons of people will go, oh, I'm in that exact same situation, or I'm in that exact phase of the journey. Um, and that can feel really good. Or what's cool is like, oh, I've been in that phase of the journey, but I'm a few steps further along. Here's what I found helpful.
Hmm.
That can be
Yeah,
really
I
helpful.
must say when I found two single mom friends who have the exact same, like of course we're differences, but we're going through the exact same crazy making. Like it's not just like, oh, yeah, we got divorced and it's like crazy making all the time. Like it's intense and it's so nice. Like we'll have a text and it's like all of us have an update on like some crazy shit that just went down and we're just like, man, we're like, we'll go out and talk about it, and it is really important to have that. But I also have learned, I just sometimes I feel so like I can get really caught in my emotions sometimes. Like sometimes I can get stuck in the sad grieving feelings and just like really get sucked in and then have all these thoughts that are like sucking me more into the hole. And it almost feels like those feelings are wrong, even though, of course, all feelings are accepted and not wrong at all. But sometimes when I'm like, you can feel so much grief and sadness right now. And you can also have, the happiness and the opposite, the polar effects, like kind of like with our kids. I think Jenna and I both love our kids so much. We both really wanted kids. We both had our own journey to get to our kids. It was challenging. Here they are. They have been so great. And there are moments literally in a day where I am like so happy to have them and they're so cute and so fun and so funny. And it's just like the best thing ever. And then in the next moment, you are like, like, why did I want kids? I'm like gonna freak out. And I'm like, why can't those both just be true?
Mm.
Like, why does it have to be like, sometimes I'd feel guilty if I had any moment of, wow, parenting is hard, or what if I just didn't have kids? Like, I would have my own freedom and I would tell myself that. And then I would have this guilt because it was, going through the miscarriages and getting to the kids, it was almost like I could never, ever be like ungrateful for the rest of my life, especially because I know there's a lot of women out there who maybe have not gotten to their baby yet. So it's like, it's a big fuck you to those women if I am not deeply loving my children 24/7 because there are women on the planet and, men who are also wanting children who are deeply, deeply, deeply sad and they maybe will never have them or maybe they have to go a different route and that's all fine. However it happens, it's all fine, but it gives me like this guilt of like I have to do it for me because I went through this hard thing and now I have them and I have to do it for all the other women too because it's just that's so fucked up. If you're like having a moment of like not wanting your kids when it took you so long to get them and so many people are so desperately wanting them, but it's like, can there just be all the feelings at once? Can I deeply, deeply love my kids and so happy they're here and then also have moments where it's like this is so hard and I kind of wish I just had my single life freedom without them in the same day, 10 times a day. Like I think that just like takes the judgment out and is like we're always going to have those feelings because even when I'm in like very developed places where I read a book and I have this profound, like, okay, that feels really good. I have learned this skill. I'm going to take on this skill. And then you do take it on and it does shift you in some way. But that doesn't mean you're never going to go back to like
Mm.
feeling frustrated again or upset or, I'm like kind of trying to get into mindfulness and continue my meditation or whatever. But then I could be so not mindful and so not meditation. So I'm like, but that doesn't negate all the good and I
Mm.
don't like using good and bad because that's not the point. But like, can just all the feelings exist together?
And that's so true with your food and body journey is like. One day you might be like, wow, I'm feeling really comfortable in my body. I'm so appreciative of my body. It's an amazing thing that functions, even if it's just my
Hmm.
heart beating and keeping me alive. Like that's a function, that's a miraculous thing. And wow, I'm
Yeah.
so like, wow, I can listen to my body. I feel so good. And the next day, you might get sucked into that idea of like, but I should look this other way, or I can't believe I have to go buy bigger pants, or this thing or that thing, or I can't believe I ate that. Like, that does not mean you've gone backwards.
Hmm.
It's the same thing with parenting. It's the same thing with relationships. It's the same thing with career. It's the same. One day you might love your job. The next day you might be like, I need to blow this up and do something new.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. I actually watched a new show last night called Pivoting. Have you seen? It's like a new
Oh,
sitcom. Um,
okay. Okay.
and it's about these three women who their friend dies, and they all like change their lives drastically because they realize like, oh my gosh, life is short. It's
Mm.
like the ER doctor, she starts working at a grocery store. She's like, this is too stressful. And then
Yeah.
the mom who's been like, which I kind of thought was funny, she like worked at a morning show, and she would always get off at 1, but she wouldn't go home till like the kids were being put in bed by the nanny because she had such a hard time parenting. And so she's like, okay, I'm gonna go home after work every day. And she like has such a hard time, but she wanted to be a better parent, more present. And then the third woman, I think the gist is she's going to leave her husband. But I was just like, oh, that's kind of fun to watch people be like, okay, I have what I was supposed to have. Okay, I was supposed to have the kids, but now I find it so hard that I'm just avoiding it and not trying to make it better. Or I have the great, successful job, but actually I'm super miserable and I just want to go have a simple job. Or I got married
Yeah.
and I have the nice house and he makes lots of money, but I'm actually miserable in my
Yeah.
relationship. And so to see, it's kind of fun to have a TV show that showed like, oh, you might think you have it all and you might think you're happy and you kind of just go along in your life, but then a big event happens, kind of snaps you
Hmm.
into like, wait, am I actually happy or
Hmm.
is this just what I thought I was supposed to do? So with
Right.
dieting, are you actually happy or is that just what you think you're supposed to do? Even if you lost weight on that diet, are you actually happy or you just think you're supposed to be in a smaller body so it's worth it?
Yeah. It's almost like
So,
a false sense of happiness because there's so much recognition and like hoorah and you did it, and it's almost like, yeah, is it my true happiness, or is this just because there's like this, like, well, it's not even
external
unspoken,
validation.
it's a very spoken word in diet culture that if you look this way you will get this, feel this, and it's the best thing on the planet, honestly, to
Mhm.
change your body and to lose weight, which is obviously, in our world of undieting, that's not the purpose. I don't think, well, I know that's why we're not here. We're not here to just focus on food and body for the rest of our lives. And I think it's like looking at all perspective in life and really asking yourself, like, how do I want to live? And how can I do more of that?
Mm.
Because sometimes when I do feel like I have lost my agenda, I have lost all this stuff that I truly wanted, I also, on the flip side, have a sense of like, wow, my life has so many open opportunities
Mm.
now because I made a drastic shift. I could have had the same marriage with the kids, living where we were living and going through the motions forever. A lot of people do that. And that's not to shame anybody who stays in a relationship, because maybe that's best for you. What
Mhm.
was best for me is different than what's best for you. Um, but now sometimes when I do get that, oh, that just, it hits me so, like, it just, gosh, sometimes I feel like emotions could kill me. Like something just hits me and I'm just like, oh, I like sucker punch, like that hurts so bad, like I cannot feel this much sadness, like. And I do think I'm a Pisces, I'm empathic, I'm more sensitive, I'm more deep, and I think that's what kind of hits even harder. um but then sometimes I have a sense of like, oh my gosh, there's so much new that I can have in my life, like
Mm.
there, where am I going to live, and what am I going to do, because I'm not in the place that I want to live right now. I like, what relationships are going to come into my lives that are going to be self-honoring and so much more loving and trustworthy and like so beautiful that I never had before in my past. Like what can I create, and what do I want, and get rid of the agenda and try to stay, the hardest part, try to stay as present as you can. Because another thing that I have learned is, wherever you go, there you are. Like it is honestly, I don't think if you plot me on in a different country with a different partner with my kids, it's not like happiness forever. It's like you are still here, you are still internally with you, you are still your body. Like I'm very clear that external things, there's joy in external things. I do believe that. I think, living in a home that you love or an apartment that you enjoy and you make the way you want it to look is awesome. And I think going out and doing things, I think external things create fun and joy. And you always come back to yourself and you realize that wasn't it. Like the weight loss wasn't it. I did the external thing. Wait, I thought the eternal happiness was supposed to be here. I got married. I got the kids. I lost the X amount of weight. Like, why do I still feel this way? And it's honestly because wherever you go, there you are. Like I literally tattooed that on my body. Like it's on my arms. It's wherever I go, there I am. And I look down at it and it's like, damn, sometimes I like really put myself in my place. Like I'm like having this moment of,
why did I get that tattooed? Now I
yeah,
have to listen to myself.
if only I just did this, I'd be so much happier. And then I look down at my arms and I'm like, damn, that's not the truth necessarily. So I think it's important to stay as present as you can and ask yourself, what can we do or what can I do today that creates joy and happiness without changing anything externally? If that's physical, if that's your body, if that's where you live, if that's, what do you have to do to create more internal happiness? And sometimes I don't really have all the answers. I would like, if you have the answers, please let us know.
Sometimes that's watching a good TV show and getting out of your own head for a little bit.
Just because we're speaking of TV shows and we're kind of just like, having a conversation last night. I don't really watch too much TV, not because I think it's wrong or bad. I just don't. But last night I was like, I'm going to put on a TV show. So I put on a show that I used to watch in the past. It was Dexter. Like back in the past, when I was like in college, I'd come home and binge watch all the episodes I missed. And so I was like, oh, it's back on. Like I haven't seen that in a while. I wonder what he's up to. So I turned it on. I watched an episode. It was like going through the episode and I was like, I don't have a lot of context. Like why? This is weird that they're really doing it this way. Like you got to give me more information. I'm not really sure what's going on. I know Dexter, so I kind of understand the plot, but what's going on here? And then it got to the end. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. And I literally watched the finale. There was 10 episodes. I accidentally watched episode 10.
I've done that before.
Yeah. I'm like, why is it doing this? Yeah. So that's like completely unrelated to every single thing that we have been talking about. But I just thought it was really funny that I, for once, tried out a TV show and I watched the season finale.
Yeah.
So then so now I know what happens at the end and no need to watch the first episode. Anyway.
and that it's just so interesting because that's my escape. TV is like my thing. Like that is if I have alone time or quiet time or like time when I don't have work or school or kids, I'm like, what show am I watching? And that is just
so like 10 p.m.
Yeah. So like 1 hour a day. But that is just so pleasurable to me. And I think sometimes we got to take judgment out of like what brings us joy, especially in times of like, I do not have many options here.
Survival?
Yeah. It's either like, okay, the kids are in bed and I finally have a bit of time, or I have a bit of schoolwork to do and then I have a bit of time. So it's like 9 p.m. I'm not necessarily going to be doing something like really wonderful and fun and like engaging. So TV is like such a good resource for me, or even like half an hour in the day. My brain needs a break from this schoolwork or this work or these kids. Oh, they're having a nap. I'm going to have an hour to like chill. And so if you take the judgment out of that, it can just be a tool to get you through, or a tool. I've always been a big TV watcher. So it's like, get me through. It's like when I had no responsibilities at all, I'd love watching TV. So I just think it's so important to like take judgment out of food, take judgment of what makes you happy, take judgment out of your situation in life, take judgment out of where you are and where you're supposed to be, quote unquote. And if you can do that, you will find a lot more peace. And I think what's funny about that, just like with all the eating stuff we talk about, if you take the judgment out of food, it's like food becomes less of a big deal. If you take the judgment out of where you're supposed to be living, it's like where you're living isn't as bad as you thought it was. If you take the judgment out of being a parent and how you're parenting, it's less of a big deal. So, I mean, if that's one takeaway, you've gotten our kind of scoop on what's going on in our real lives. Um, and then kind
And
of
just kind of
the,
knowing that we're all on our own timeline too. So it's not
mm,
like, oh, there's all these things that I would like to change, or oh, I'm not in a. I've been wanting to leave my marriage forever. I should do it today. Like it's more of like pay
if you take
attention
the
to your own.
judgment out of that, then
Of
it's like,
course, take the judgment out of everything, and just wherever you are at right now is exactly where you are okay to be. Like, I'm not gonna say meant to be, because that's kind of like, sometimes I'm like, really? People like, you are meant to be. I'm like, really? This is what I'm meant to be right now? This was meant to happen? And it kind of is like, okay. But wherever you're at is okay.
mhm,
And hopefully we know that we have the empowered choice to make certain decisions and how we want to live our lives and how we want to be and how we want to feel. And hopefully you are able to go find things that create happiness, even if it's like a really big shift in your life, or it's a
mhm.
tiniest, smallest shift. You start, I don't know, writing a few things that you're grateful for each day. That can dramatically shift people's lives. Like I'm trying to do that right now too. Like I'm trying to rewire my brain, but not in a way because I don't want to have to try so hard. Like we don't have that
Mm.
much time. So just doing simple things on like being kinder to myself. Like sometimes I'll really get out of the kindness to myself, and I am like really hard on myself, and the worthy kind of my worthiness goes down, but it's like even just being a little bit more self-compassionate or gratitude, or I go to my therapist every week. Like she's like so amazing. So if you just need anybody to just talk to, and like you can do little things, it doesn't have to be some big,
Yeah.
huge
And I think sometimes that can be
change.
hard because even for myself, like with like I'm gonna call it postpartum depression, but like my youngest is two, so I don't think I could call it that
I think
anymore.
that still counts,
But it's just very
honestly.
like child related depression. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
hormonal or what, but um like sometimes it can feel like, well, what's the point? Like I go do one fun thing
Hmm.
and then I have to come home and then I'm struggling again. So what's the point? Sometimes I can get really
Yeah.
caught in that, like, why bother spending the money to go do that? Why bother spending the time to go do that? Because like even when I came to see you on the trip, it's like after it was kind of like, well, what the fuck was the point of that? I'm glad we got to
Hmm.
hang out. We did a photo shoot. We did some work stuff that needed to be done. But it was like, well, that was a
Yeah.
waste of a trip, like during a pandemic when like I could have waited till I was less depressed. And then like now
Yeah,
I feel
like you were
like,
feeling so shitty.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was feeling like that was kind of the bottom of the barrel there in the summer.
Yeah.
And then now I'm feeling like a little bit better where I like, if I go do something fun and take some time away, I'm going to really soak it up and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it kind of can feel like, oh, well, what was the point of that? But I
Hmm.
mean, that's our only choice is to like try to make things a little bit better in the situations that we're dealt. Change it where you can, but tons of the time you cannot change anything.
Hmm.
Like,
Just 5%. That's what I heard. They're like,
mm,
you don't need to do anything 100%. Like, what if you
mm,
just did 5% more, or just did your goal? You just reached your goal. Like you just did just 5% more of anything. And I'm like, that feels good. That feels so much better, because it's like 5% could be just the smallest amount, and that's enough. I think we need to make like less is more, do less,
yes, have
good
less,
enough.
be less.
Yeah, like stop, like less stress, stop
Mhm.
working so much. Like we need to take, we just need like the drive to like success and more and more and this and more. And it's like sometimes I just like want to get rid of it all and
And
just like,
we have been doing that a little bit, like even shifting because like we were kind of stuck in our Instagram rut. And like, what do we do? I feel so burnt out on it. I
mhm,
swear we got shadow banned or something because like all of a sudden none of our posts were getting any likes or views or wasn't being shared at all.
mhm,
Our like followers going down, which is like it shouldn't be about the numbers, but when you run a business, you're kind of like trying to build a community so that you can have
right.
clients and run a business and sell your app and your courses and stuff. So it kind of is important. But we really hit a wall of like, okay, yeah, we really should get into reels. Okay, let's do a course on how to do reels. And we were both like, I don't want to do that though, even though it's what we should be doing. And you got to put all this effort
Yeah.
in. You have to do what everyone else is doing. And we're like, can we just not do that? And like, let's work on our YouTube because long form content seems more enjoyable. So that's what we're doing here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hello, we're so glad you're here. So, kind of as we wrap up, that's just, we wanted to lay it all out of like, this is where we're at starting in 2022. As we move forward, we're going to be focusing on our YouTube channel, really creating great content for you so you can be learning and actually benefit from it and learn from it, be educational and interesting and relatable instead of just like entertainment, which Instagram seems pretty entertainment based. So we'll just be sharing clips of our YouTube video on Instagram. And that's going to be your Instagram from here on out for the time being. And then in the meantime, when we're talking about work 5% on your goals, great resources. I wish I had it in my little stack of books here, but I don't. Our journal, Undiet Your Mind. You can find that on Amazon.
Do.
Maybe Lauren's got it.
I got it.
You could do 5 minutes a day in that, and you're going to really see a big difference in your relationship with food. We also have our app. I do have my phone. I can show our app.
I know, now that we're showing video, let's give.
Well, you can't really see screens well, though.
We can kind of see it. We can kind of see it.
Yeah, and so it has our community. It has new content every week of lessons, meditations, courses, and now we have new non-diet movement classes. So you kind of just these little bits you can grab onto of undieting, of like, oh, I want to work a little bit on this today. Okay, I'm going to write one page. Or, oh, I'm going to listen to one audio on the app. That every day does build. And I have found that even with our business.
And it's sustainable.
Yeah, even with our work in Undieting and the Body Love Society. Every time we try to do something really big and smash it out, it's like this, right? It's like, oh, it is really big, but then it kind of dies off. Now we have to do something totally new, really big. So even it's like we built this app and it's more of like a steady, strong growth of like, oh, this is steady. This is more like
and that feels so much better.
Oh, it's like a long-term, doable, maintainable thing in our lives and in our work. And so great for the clients. And if you download the app, you'll see how much great stuff is in there. And we have over 70 experts contributing and really like bringing in community of both the experts and the people in there on dieting. And so in your own life, where can you create kind of more long-term stability, more slow and steady progression as opposed to like a diet? I mean, that's diet mentality, right? Go really hard and then drop off. And that's hustle culture. Go really hard and then you burn out. It's like, well, wait a minute. Let's take this kind of peak we've been climbing up and falling off of and change it and kind of get into a kind of a slower, steadier growth. And so if you want to do that with your relationship with food and your body, those are two really good resources that you can work at slow and steady.
Yeah. So ask yourself, where can I do less? Where can I create a space where I can do things more consistently and just not burn myself out? I think it just creates a happier, more peaceful life just by doing less in general and knowing you don't need to work 20 hours a day to get to be an undieter. It really is just like, what is one small thing that you can do each day or every few days, or one small mindset that you would like to work on? I'm going to allow all food without feeling guilty for it, and just listen to your body and just do that for a while. And just kind of let your body take you. And yes, if you have the app, that's really great. And if you do the journal like that, at least that's a bit guided, but it's a bit
really more tangible. Can be helpful.
Yeah, of course, sometimes you need some guidance. Of course, there's an important place for guidance, but just make sure that you're doing it in a way like, is this sustainable? Because we don't want to make undieting unsustainable, because that's not even what it's all about anyway. It's
and it can be. I mean, if you over stimulate yourself with content, podcasts, videos like this, even though this was kind of a more personal, just interesting conversation, and you're always trying to crack the code and doing course after course and working with this professional, that professional, trying to get it solved now, that's probably not going to get you to where you want to go. So for personal life, for undieting, for your business, for your work, slow and steady will get you to where you want to go. But we do have to cultivate that patience, that presence, and freaking hell, those are two really hard things.
And another thing I've been really trying to work on is not making everything so serious and matter so much.
That's a big one.
Part of it's neutralize it, because I could think of something and think of my past, or think of my divorce and be like, this is how I was wronged, and this is like all the, and I could just get so worked up about anything
Yeah.
that's like just such an injustice to me. And then I can kind of like, oh, that's, let's get curious about these thoughts. What's going on? And then I can ask myself, like, what would it feel like to neutralize this?
Mm.
And when I like, it's kind of like not letting it go as in like, oh, it's fine. Like,
Yes.
whatever happened is fine. It's okay. Not like condoning, like, yeah, that's fine. But it is like living in a place of acceptance and being in more of a like, does it have to matter so much? Can it just
Especially
like,
right now, especially when the moment you're thinking of it is probably a time when it's not really a threat in that moment.
right,
Like
right.
you're
So
alone
may,
in your
right,
room doing a bit of work. It's like, actually, that's irrelevant to this moment. Obviously, if you're in court dealing with something, it's a little bit more relevant.
right.
But
It's
like,
like ruining my peace in this
yeah,
moment.
yeah, it's
Like
ruining your peace in
put
this
it in its
moment. Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Totally. So when I kind of like when I'm getting upset about something, it's just really like, okay, it doesn't matter as much as we think, or even thinking of our business or whatever, like this and this and this and this. And it's like, honestly, you have enough. You have enough. And you know what? I don't want to do any spoilers, but is anybody if you has anybody, since you can answer me right now, have you seen Don't Look Up?
Oh, I've heard of it. I haven't watched it
Okay,
myself.
so you got to watch it. It really, I've realized why I avoid movies is they create such a profound impact on my
Mhm.
emotions that it's like, this is too hard to feel right now because it's like I take on all the characters' emotions and imagine my life going like it gets intense, but it gives me perspective and some
Mhm.
profound feelings of like, God, so human. And I don't know, I don't want to do any spoilers, but there was just this moment. I won't say anything what was happening, but there was a moment in the movie when people were just sitting together and they said, we always had it all. And I was just like, like I know it's out of context, but I'm like, yeah, like you have it all. Like I have it all. I'm privileged and I have a roof over my head and my kid's head and I have friends and family and there's so many good things in my life that I'm like, don't waste one more
Right.
fucking second like focusing on all the shit because you do have so many good things and I sometimes I even judge myself for like you
Mhm.
wow, you stayed in it really long this time. Like the depression really kicked in or the sadness really kicked in. Sometimes you got to just let your emotions free flow.
Well,
And
I
I'm
do think
like,
this episode's a good example of that. Like we shared it all, we got it all out, we shared what's going on. You more than me because you have more like tangible things happening. But like, and then now we're talking about like, but also
yeah.
when we realize, oh, I've been sitting in that for 3 days, I've missed all the good moments because I've been focusing on this hard
Hmm.
part about it. And I get that too. Like I really have been like I'm actively going to therapy as well, being like, I want to enjoy parenting more. Like
Hmm.
I don't want to take it for granted. And then yeah, then they are grown up and then you are sad you missed it.
Right. Because right now you're
But
like, I want to get to the
I
end,
know
but
it's like, oh
then
my
not
God,
the
when are
end
they
end,
going to
but
be
like,
older
yeah.
so that I don't have to be like on them 24/7. So I can have a little bit more space and they can at least play by themselves a little bit. And then I can like make dinner so I don't have kids crawling on me while I'm trying to cook. Like it all
Hmm.
feels like too much. Like I always say, it's like I'm keeping my head above water. And it's like I want to
Hmm.
feel like I'm floating and relaxing, not like, okay, today I just gotta get this done and this done and this done and this says, okay, it's almost nap time. Okay, I can do a bit of work now. Like that's not a fun way to
Yeah.
live life. So there's nothing I can change about this situation right now. I'm in school. I don't want to quit. We have our work. I don't want to quit. I have kids. They're not
Hmm.
going anywhere. So what
Yeah.
can I do to make it not feel like, what can I do to start floating, even though I'm in a state of like doggy paddle at the moment?
I imagine you just like in a really warm pool in a beachy setting and you're floating on,
I
you're
just
on
need
a
to like,
floaty and
I just need to like visualize
I
that
think you
more.
like literally need to go float somewhere
Well, I
above
am
water.
in March. I'm going on a little trip
Yes.
away
Yeah, you're going to
from,
Mexico.
yeah, with a friend. So I'm very
Oh
excited
my
about that.
gosh. See, maybe you'll really enjoy that
Yeah.
time. And I
Yeah.
just
This
think
time will be better.
sometimes I really, in order to like get out of like these states of, yeah, trying to just enjoy what we have, what makes us happy, like feel the feelings, do all the things, never
Mhm.
deny that. And sometimes I just really get like, we're only here for a certain amount of time. Like I
That is
get
that
kind of like,
perspective piece comes
yeah,
back, and then
like
it's that balance.
let's go live. Let's go do all the fun, amazing things and be with the people you love the most and do the things you love the most and give your time to the people that you love the most and all the things because one day, like we literally are not going to be here anymore. And it's sometimes that gives me more perspective than anything.
Yeah.
Like, is me stressing over the million-page paper gonna matter later in life? No, you're gonna die one day. Like, just do what you can do in the moment to better your life, do your goals. Like, yeah, like there are moments when I want to quit school so bad where I'm just like, you don't have to do this. Like, you literally don't have to do it. But I'm like, I check in, I'm like, but I really want this. I really would love to get to the end of this and get my license and everything. I think it'd be really awesome. And you can have goals, but
Yeah.
don't take it so damn seriously because you will finish it. It doesn't matter. Like at the
It might
end of
take
your
longer.
life,
Yeah.
you're not going to look back and feel stressed about that, that course or those papers that were due. So in the moment, just like do your best. And it doesn't always have to be 100%. Like
Yeah. Well,
it can
hey,
be,
that's my hashtag good enough. That's my slogan, except
yeah.
my husband's hashtag is hashtag never good enough. So we struggle
So
with
you're good
that.
for each other.
Yeah.
You're good. You balance each
We
other out.
balance each other, or we push each other so far the other way
You
that
like
it's an
really get at
imbalance.
each other
Yeah.
because
So,
you're like,
you know,
yeah.
there's always,
Well,
there's
I think
always,
there's always good to be opposites attract, right? I'm not even
ah,
really. We'll get into relationships another day. I'm not even sure what attracts each other anymore. I
what
don't
is a
know anything about
relationship?
anything right
What's
now.
right?
Like I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out and like how it could actually work out and what actually will be fulfilling long term. Like that's another thing that I will continue to work through and
Yeah, we're all
um,
learning as we go. Well, this
we're
was a
all
very long
learning.
episode, but I think it was important to just
Yeah,
get it all out there, talk
yeah,
freely, share about what's going on. And then as we move
yeah.
forward, please go follow us on our YouTube channel. And if you're watching on there, you can go follow
Subscribe
us
to the
on,
YouTube
yeah,
channel. That would be
subscribe.
amazing.
That's what I mean. See, I don't
Yeah.
have the YouTube lingo yet. Subscribe on the YouTube channel
Yes.
and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to
Hmm.
podcasts, and then you'll have access to both. And if you're
And you can
willing,
rate and review
yeah.
finally with Spotify.
Okay, good. If you can rate and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, that helps a lot. If you can like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate it so much. And
Hmm.
we will see you next week. We'll be back weekly starting
Wow.
now.
That was the big one, guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're
We'll be
actually
back
gonna yeah, we'll be back to
educational stuff.
UnDieting next week, but I'm like, wow, we're actually gonna upload this today. Okay, here we go.
She public.
We're gonna go public with this. All right,
Yeah.
everyone. Yes, we'll be back next week with we'll make more of an UnDieting message for you because
That's
I'm
right.
sure that's what you're looking for too.
Yeah, we'll
All
be
right.
back. We'll see you then.